Hello again. My name is Dagmara Bożek-Andryszczak, and today I'm going to present you something about the Arctic tundra and the ways of adaptation to the plant to the climate. But thank you for all confirmations that it works. Okay, wow, okay, that's great. So I just would like you to remind you that I have sent you a few days ago, just before the presentation, short dictionaries. I prepared them in two versions. The first one is Polish and English version, and the second one is English. I decided to prepare the list of those words that might be a little bit difficult for you, so you will have an opportunity to use it to check it just before the presentation or after the presentation to, for example, translate it for yourself or something. And the Polish and the English version, of course, I prepare Polish translation because we have a lot of Polish schools enrolled for today's lessons. But for every my lesson, I will try to prepare such kind of a list. Okay, so I think we can start now, finally. So we will start with the short video because I would like you to have overall information about the tundra. It's a film about the Arctic and the Antarctic, but you can find there interesting information about the climate, the main features of the Arctic climate. The other important information is if you will have some problems with the sound or the video, with the material for today's lesson, I have sent you as well the link to that material because it is available on the YouTube. So let's start. I think it will work. Okay, we have some basic information about the Arctic and the Antarctic, but of course today we will focus only on the Arctic region and the Arctic tundra. So here you have the map of the tundra distribution. I don't know why, but we don't have the Svalbard archipelago here, but I think and I hope that you very well know where the Svalbard is located. It's in the above the Norway, the northern part of the Norway on the map. I don't know why. It looked like this. I spotted it just before our presentation. So the tundra covers about 20% of the Earth's surface, and it mainly can be observed in the Arctic region. But of course, it's not only the coastal areas, the northernmost parts of the Arctic, of the countries that have their territories in the Arctic, like Canada, US, Russia, Norway, but it is also on the islands within the Arctic oceans, like Greenland, like of course Spitsbergen, because today we will be talking mainly about the Spitsbergen and the other islands, of course, like Iceland. But of course, that's not only the main area where the tundra might be observed, because it occurs also in the highest mountain, like Andes, or in the Antarctic, as you can see. But of course, the Arctic is the main region when the tundra is observed. Now we have two definitions. The first one is the tundra, and the second one is the biome. The Arctic tundra is, of course, the distribution, the northernmost distribution of plants in the Earth, in the Arctic, in the northern hemisphere, and the biome is the formation of plants and animals living in a region with within the same climate zone. In our film, there was an information about the plants and the animals as well. So you have very short information about the species we can meet in the Arctic, in the tundra. Okay, now we have the main features of the Arctic climate, but before I start explaining some of the main things concerning the Arctic climate, I would like you to answer me the question, what is the Arctic climate like? If you are thinking about the Arctic climate, what came to your mind first? What expressions, what words, what definitions? Just to make a short summary. Okay, we have the first answer, cold, of course. Yeah. Okay. What else? Very cold. Okay, that's right. That's not only cold, but very cold as well. Ice. Okay. Snow. Strange. Okay. Could be because there are almost no people there. Almost cold wind, right? And how about the phenomena? For example, what we can observe in the sky, minus 10. Okay. I have in Krakow at night the temperature in Poland, but in the Arctic it could be as well. That's not a rare thing to have a minus 10 degrees centigrade outside. Oh yeah, I was waiting for that. Aurora borealis, yes, very beautiful phenomenon that we can see on the sky in the polar regions. Okay. What else? What else? Come to your mind when we think about the Arctic. Windy. Okay, it's very windy, right? Okay, I will still wait for your answers. If you will have any ideas, just do not hesitate and write it down. Permafrost, blizzard, windy. Okay, yes. Still, you can use the chat, and I will move to our diagram. Polar bear. Oh yes, yes, yes. We have lessons about the polar bears, so it's the very important animal that we can meet in the Arctic. And our diagram, of course, we know that there is cold or very cold, as some of you have already wrote, but the winter is it's a very long period. It's not like we have in Europe here in Poland that we have four. We have four typical seasons like summer, autumn, spring, and winter. The winter is the longest period in the whole year. The summer is much more shorter than we are familiar with here in our climate. But the most important thing is the information that the spring and the autumn, there are only short periods. It's like a border between the summer and the winter periods. Okay, we have still problem with the sound from time to time, so maybe I will try to tell a little bit slower and maybe it will work. Okay, and despite of the long winter period, we have very interesting phenomena like polar night and the midnight sun. It's the opposite phenomenon to each other. Polar night, it's a very dark season when the sun is beyond the horizon, and it can last for 3 or 3.5, like on Spitsbergen months. And the same is in the case of the midnight sun, the polar night, the polar day, let's say. Okay, the third thing is the growing season is only up to 60 days, so it's not much. It means that the plants have not enough time to evolve, to grow, so they have to be fast and evolve some ways of adaptation if they want to survive. We have some typical plants or organisms that we can meet, observed in the Arctic. They are mosses, grasses, shrubs, and lichens. So it's not much, but it's important that even in the cold climate, Arctic climate, we have still some plants. And it means that they can have to be adapted to the climate. And the adaptations are, the first one is compact plant size. When the plants are small, they might be well or more well protected from cold temperatures. Hairy stem, it's maybe we can use I will draw a flower. Sorry, I'm not a real artist, so it will be very poor, but okay, the stem, it's that, oh, well, my God, it's, it doesn't work. It's the part of the plant between the flower, the roots, so it's stem. Okay, it's that part. Let's go back to the presentation. So some of the plants has hairy stems, which means that their stems are small hairs, and they help retain the heat. It's very important as well. And the dark colored leaves. The darker the leaves are, the more sunlight they can absorb. So it's also the very important way of adaptation. And we have now some examples of the Arctic plants that can be observed in the Arctic region. The first one is Arctic poppy. I use as well the Latin names because I know that we have here the participants from Romania, from Greece. I'm really sorry, but I tried to look for the translation in your languages, but for me it was too difficult, so I decided to only prepare the Polish version because we have enrolled many Polish schools, and the Latin name because for you it will be easier to find it on the internet or the books. I also include the Latin name for our species in the list that I prepare for you and have sent via the mailbox on the website, Edu-Arctic website, so you can find it there as well. So the Arctic poppy have a very interesting way of adaptation because they orient their flowers to track the sun. It's look very interesting because if you take the time-lapse movie of the Arctic poppy, you can see that it's moving for all day around during the, of course, midnight sun. So it is interesting that a very small plant can do something like this. Okay, we have an information from Romania. Yes, yes. Thank you for it, because I have a problem to find the translation, and I think I will make a mistake. So it is better when native speakers find it for themselves. Okay, another question for you: the permafrost. Do you know what the permafrost is? God. Okay. I will, of course, explain, but maybe some of you know. I'm still waiting. Okay. Yes, we have a Polish translation. Yes. Stone behind the soil, not very, but yeah. Maybe some other ideas. Okay, I'm still waiting, and now I'm sending you the link to our Polarpedia, because we have a permafrost entry prepared, and there are so many interesting resources. You can use it after our presentation. You can show it to your students, so I encourage you to use Polarpedia, and we are going back to the permafrost, and that might be the main cause of the lack of the trees. But it's a very short diagram to present you what the permafrost looks like. Oh yes, yes, we have very nice answer from Poland. Soil below the freezing point for a few years. Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you for the answer. Because we have very thick layer of the plants, we know what kind of plants we can observe in the tundra. After that, we have soil, but the soil can be divided because of the high, the low temperature. The soil melting can melt only up to 1 meter deep, and it's called active layer. It's the first thing, and beyond the soil, the active layer, there is the permafrost. It's a frozen ground that doesn't melt for more than 2 years. So it's frozen for many years, and it almost doesn't melt. Only the active layer is frozen during the winter time, and it is melting during the summer time. So the result in a very muddy area. Everything is covered with mud. When I was in southern Spitsbergen, during the summertime as well, because I spent there the 1 year in Polish Polar Station Horsund. We have a lot of mud around the station. So the best idea was to wear the rubber shoes, because any other type of shoes will be not proper to that conditions. Okay, so the permafrost, because it's a very thick layer and very cold layer that is almost frozen, the roots of the trees can't grow deep than the 1 meter. So it means that the trees in the tundra can't grow, not only because of the permafrost, but still it's the main cause of the lack of the trees, but of course because of the Arctic climate, the low temperatures and the strong winds, and of course the very short growing season. But despite of the fact that I was telling you about the permafrost and about the trees, that we have no trees in the tundra, that might be a curiosity that we have a tree or trees even, or even big forests, but they are not similar to those we are familiar with. Because if you would like to see those Arctic trees, you have to kneel down or come close to the ground to see the polar willow. It's a very small tree, typical for the Spitsbergen, for the Svalbard archipelago, and it is growing only up to 2 or 9 centimeters high. So it's very small. And on the left side, you have the polar willow. So it's not a tall tree, it's not a high tree. And on the right side, you have the Arctic forest. It's many of the polar willows in the one area, in the one place. The photograph, the photo was taken in the end of the August. So when we are thinking now about our diagram from the beginning of the presentation, it's that short autumn period between the summer and the winter. So the leaves of the polar willows are getting yellow. During the summertime, the leaves are green, and after that they are getting yellow and brown. So yes, you can see thanks to the polar willow that the winter is coming, because it's the strongest season in the whole year in the Arctic. Caribou Moose, it's the second plant, interesting plant that has a very interesting adaptation to the Arctic climate. It's the main ingredient of the reindeer's diet. The reindeer is called caribou in Canada, so that's why the name of our plant, the Caribou Moose, sorry. And because we can hear on our video that the climate of the Arctic is very dry. We have a lot of snow, we have a lot of ice, but the rainfalls are not enough. The amounts of the rainfalls are not enough to offer the water supply for whole year for all of the plants. So that's why the Caribou Moose can survive for long periods without water. It looks like this. It is absolutely dried out and became dormant. Dormancy is a state similar to the dormancy. The state very similar to the hibernation, and when there are more water, more light, the Caribou Moose can start to grow again. And I have also a short film from the Spitsbergen when as I have told you, spent 1 year in the Polish Polar Station, and there will be some views of the tundra, the Spitsbergen tundra. But before I start the film for you, I would like to tell you something that those plants that we can observe in the Arctic, of course, are not tall. We know that because we have our polar willow, but they are growing close to the ground as well, because the temperatures near to the ground are the highest. So that's why the plants are in a are growing together, because they can keep warm more efficiently than they will be growing in separate areas. Okay, so now we have our video. There will be not the commentaries, but only the music. Okay, there it is, the end of my presentation. I'm really sorry for the technical problems we have today. I hope they will not occur in the future. We have a few minutes for your questions, so if you have some, please ask.